Alright, hello viewers, I'm Louie and today I'm going to share you my latest experience of buying vintage stuff online. And I, I usually had more success uh, in buying stuff, uh, buying second stuff online, and especially vintage cameras. But uh, this latest purchase, however, was an absolute disaster. And yeah, and I'm just going to show you how this happened, and then later I'll show you how to avoid it, and simply hopefully just don't be like me anymore. So here we go. This is the culprit. So this one is a Zorky 4 from 1962, and it's actually a quite nice set though. It has its original leather everyday case, although the strap has been snapped in here, so it's no use anymore. If I want to use it, I have to replace it. And then, excuse me. Alright, here's the body. You cannot see the lens because the lens is being repaired right now. Actually, yesterday I sent it to be repaired and cleaned. This is the lens cap. Front lens cap, it's out of metal. I'll tap it. It's metal, out of metal. And however, the disappointment is in this body though. Although from outside it's not too terrible per se, but sadly the condition of shutter is simply horrible. And this is even worse than what I originally first received a few days ago. Okay, actually from the outside it's not bad at all. As you can see, there's not much scratches, dents, and mind you, it's 60 years old, so this is quite impressive actually. Even the leatherette is still intact pretty much, except in this corner very tiny part. Even that is fine, and the rangefinder system is actually not bad. However, when you open this, the problem ensues. Yep, here we go. So yeah, now the shutter is completely jammed inside the shutter housing at the left or the right. I know this is normal. You can detach the taking spool, it's fine. However, the shutter though is just absolutely falling apart. So when I originally received it a few days ago, the shutter was half kinda okay, but the rest was absolutely horrible because it was badly holed everywhere, and even in some parts they were simply holed in a huge part of it, like almost a quarter of it. So yeah, that makes the camera basically useless. I cannot use it. I definitely have to replace this shutter curtain if I actually want to use it. And the second thing, the shutter speed. If I'm honest, the Zoki 4 actually was one of the most advanced Soviet rangefinder even back then. It's quite impressive. It had shutter speed range from full 1 second up to 1,000 second, which was quite impressive. However, when I actually first got it, the shutter speed that I could use only from 1/25 to the 1/1000th of second, which is only 4. 1/25, 1 to 50th, 1/500th, and 1/1000th. The rest of them are just whack, absolutely whack. And to be fair, I repaired it a little bit, so I removed this bottom thing to uncover the screws that control the tension of the shutter, and I was a bit happy that it worked a little bit a while, only one day though. Because later on suddenly the shutter just snapped, so the shutter curtain just literally stuck inside the housing on each side, left and right. So yeah, basically now it's just simply useless. Yeah. Although the other thing, this is slightly hard to rotate. It literally hurt my fingers when I actually cocked the shutter. But now because it's loose, it doesn't really hurt anymore, but now it's simply useless. Just another paperweight, a Soviet paperweight to be exact. And also I tested the self timer, and it's a bit jammed as well, so it's not recommended to be used to begin with. So yeah, the body is absolutely disaster. Although the lens wasn't too bad, the lens is Jupiter 8 50mm f2. It is a copy of Sonar from Zeiss Icon, and yeah, the state of the lens wasn't too bad, so that's why I decided to send it to be repaired to the professional, and with hope I can sell it. And the upshot is, although the camera is dead, the body is dead, absolutely written off, it's no use anymore, but the lens though, and it is confirmed by the repairman that the lens is not just the usual Jupiter, but it is the heavier version of the Jupiter. So it is the rarer version. So apparently at that time, usually the Soviet lenses were made out of aluminum, which is lighter in weight. But in this case, for this camera, for some reason they decided to use brass, which is more usually normal in the German lenses back then, especially like Leica or Zeiss Icon at the time. And meanwhile, Zorky 4 though was still the derivative of the Leica copy from 1930s after all, so maybe for some reason in the Soviet Union they decided to make some of their lenses out of brass to compete. I don't know, because this Zorky 4 has Latin script on the front, and which tells us that this is for export market outside USSR. So maybe that's why they compelled to create the heavier version lens, which made out of brass instead of the usual aluminum. So yeah, I hope that the lens can be sold a little bit higher than the usual Jupiter 8. Yeah, although that's my only hope, that I can get some my money back. And yeah, if I'm honest, I'm quite pissed off with this purchase, because the seller didn't tell me about the shutter condition at all. Like, didn't say anything about the hole and also the capping shutter speeds. And yeah, maybe that's part of my mistake too, that I didn't ask anything about the condition further when I usually did. Like, I usually ask the seller videos about performing the shutter speed test and the lens condition, and maybe also the rangefinder viewfinder thing, and also open the back. And the funny thing was, when I first got the camera and I tested it and I showed to the seller was like freaked out that I actually dismount the lens and also open the film back. So apparently he didn't perform any deeper test, only then not only then just this simple thing and that's it. I suppose he didn't test anything more than that, so maybe that's why he didn't know that. But also it's a bit weird, because Zorky 4 is simply the copy of Leica, and anyone who knows cameras, or at least knows Leica system, Leica uses Leica cameras are almost always interchangeable, has interchangeable lens, so you can dismount the lens anytime. And also for especially Zorky 4, you can open the back like this, and it is literally wide open like this, like Nikon F or the Nikon rangefinder at that time. It is exactly the same, and yet he for some reason he was surprised by that. And even he told me that I might break it. Like, what? Excuse me? It seems that he is rather really concerned, and maybe even possibly he accused me for being ruining this camera, although it doesn't make any sense, because that's literally how we assess the camera to begin with. Like assess the lens, the shutter, and the film back. Otherwise, how would I know about the condition of camera if I didn't perform those things? I just don't understand the logic behind it. And I also possibly think that he might intentionally hide those things, so that's why he simply like forbade me to open the lens and also the film back, to hide the problems, which is quite fundamental for the camera. And also also he belittled the problems that are fundamental for the camera operation, like the curtain can be replaced easily. Like, seriously, uh, maybe if we live in Eastern Europe or Russia, maybe it's more plausible that there are some people, some guys that can still repair this easily, because after all, it's former Soviet Union. But in here, in Indonesia, it's very rare to find Soviet cameras at all. And so the younger generation of the repairmen were not weren't familiar with all the Soviets, and they're simply just don't bother with it. I already asked a few of them, and they were giving up repairing this shutter problem. Nobody really wants to touch it anymore, and that's why it's simply no use. And yeah, it really pissed me off. And when it came the time I decided to get a refund, he was simply like, really want to avoid the give refund to me. Yeah, he just made up some stupid claims that Zorky is rare, something like that, which again doesn't make any sense, because first off, KMZ, which manufactured this camera back in 1950s to up to 70s, it's 20 years of production, made around 1.7 million units of these. And yeah, Zorky 4 was one of the most common rangefinders in Soviet Union back then. So it doesn't make any sense in terms of rarity. And even though I know it's export version, which may be slightly rarer than the domestic version, but still 1.7 million units, it's not rare. And in perspective, in comparison, 1 second. Oh, the landscape. In comparison, this 1982 Canon AL1, which looks very modern, very high technology, and yet this is actually rarer than the Zorky 4. Zorky 4 made around 1.7 million units. This thing is only around 400,000. And that's even the high. On the high, the lowest can be around 200,000. So it's at least 4 times rarer than the Zorky. And not to mention, the Canon AL1's battery door is notoriously very, very fragile. So if that's broken, and that's it, you cannot use the AL1. Basically, it's just spell the death of AL1. But thankfully, mine is in very nice condition, very, very pristine. And also, the most important thing, the battery door is also intact. And not to mention, this Canon AL1 also is the very, very early batch version of it, and simply works very well, like this. And even I also managed to get the power winder for the Canon AL1, and it's simply glorious. Can you hear that? How cool is that? That's one of the coolest thing I've ever heard and feel. See, this these all combined are still cheaper than I bought this crap. Like, seriously. Can you believe that? And so yeah, in conclusion, if you want to buy especially vintage stuff from the online marketplace, either be maybe eBay, something like that, just make sure you really check the item thoroughly. Just ask the seller to take photos as many as possible regarding the item, or even better, ask the video, just to make sure that the item in question is in a good order, so you can assess whether it needs some replacement or some fixes that it might occur, and yeah, you won't end up with this junk. Yep. Now the only thing that might save me is the lens, with the hope that I can sell it with some good amount of money. So yeah, just don't be like me. Yeah, next time you have to be more careful about the descriptions on online websites or online marketplace. Just take them with a pinch of salt, what they're saying, because yeah, more likely they are simply hiding stuff behind that descriptions, just to lure you, that thinking you're going to have a good deal with that. And so yeah, I think that's it for today, and stay vigilant, and goodbye.